for May 18th, 2021. Ms. Gink, will you please call the roll for us?
Ms. Vittori?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Here, sorry.
Here.
I screwed it up. My bad.
Mr. Moon?
Here.
Mr. Mulligan?
Here.
Mayor Condrey?
Here. Okay, and we would like to move to an executive session before the actual general meeting. So under the authority of ORC 121.22G1 to consider the appointment of a public official, do we have a motion to move to executive session?
So move for adoption.
Second.
Go for it, Amy.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Vittori?
Yes.
So we're going to adjourn to the police training room, and we'll be back in regular session around 5:30 for our regular business meeting.
do I have a motion to come back into open session?
So moved. Second?
Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Ms. Vettori.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to our Middletown City Council meeting for Tuesday, May 18th, 2021. Let's start with a moment of meditation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we've already done our roll call for the evening, so we don't need to do that. We will go to citizen comments. We have quite a few. Just to remind everyone, please state your name and address for the record when you come up to the dais, and we'll have 3 minutes for every individual to speak with a max. Do we have a maximum, right? 60 minutes? Is that what we have?
Yeah.
Okay. Just so we get that all clear in advance. The first individual we have is Candace Keller. Yes, would you like to come up to the dais? Oh, sure. Who are we? Let's see, can we do that? Is that okay?
If council would like, that's certainly your privilege.
Okay,
And then you just want
you
to
are
put Ms.
up.
Keller's card in her spot, in that spot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Chris Batty, 128 Marymount Court, Middletown, Ohio. So tonight I'm here to speak to you about our God-given freedoms in America. When you were elected to office, you took an oath before God to defend the Ohio and the U.S. Constitutions. These documents are the supreme law of the land in this state, and they provide that only legislative bodies make the law. Therefore, executive orders, governor, or health department mandates are not law. A face mask is legally designated as a medical device by FDA Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, Section 201H, Definition 2. Therefore, in every state, including Ohio, face masks are regulated as a medical device, and according to ORC 4731.41 and 4731.34, even just recommending that someone wear a regulated medical device or mask constitutes the unlicensed practice of medicine and is punishable as a fifth-degree felony. Moreover, forcing a customer to wear a mask to enter a business is a violation of the Federal Civil Rights Law, Title II, which requires that as a place of public accommodation, a business must provide free and equal access to all services and facilities without discrimination. ORC 4112.02 further prohibits the business from preventing entry to the full enjoyment of the business establishment as no law has been broken. So the current health mandates are not only not law, but they actually violate the real law. The people are fed up, and I'm here to speak on their behalf, the behalf of many friends, families, and businesses here in Middletown. This is the place, now is the time, and you all as a city council are the right people to act on the people's behalf. We need to do something. So my question to you, what are your plans to obey the law, the real law that is, not the fake mandates and legislation? What are your plans to keep your oath of office as a city councilman and city councilwoman and the mayor? What are your plans to keep your oath and to restore your citizens' God-given freedoms to allow them to choose whether or not to reopen their businesses, churches, and schools without unlawful restrictions from state and federal mandates or executive orders? And lastly, more specifically, will you as a city council of Middletown be willing to draft up and approve an ordinance or some kind of resolution that states the protection of the people and the businesses of this city going forward, one that puts freedom back into the hands of the people of Middletown, that nullifies and rejects the unlawful mandates by Governor DeWine or any future governor? I'm going to yield the rest of my time back to you.
I would like to request that if you have an example of a resolution like that, that you could email it to me personally.
Okay. I have a physical copy here, and I can also email it if you'd like.
Yeah, an email would be great, actually.
Okay. I will do that.
And I have a card if you'd like that.
Yes, please. Can I approach?
Yes, sure. There you go. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have Adrian Scherer.
When you get old and get arthritis, you'll understand. Anyway, my name is Adrienne Shear. I live in Monroe, but my heart and my office are at 1028 Central Avenue. About 20 years ago, I sat on the 4th floor of the First National Bank building, looked out the window, and wondered how in the world we would ever get our downtown off of life support. In fact, it wasn't even on life support at that point, it was dead. And there was a roof over Central Avenue and Broad. And a couple of years after I started wondering and thinking and joined Heritage Ohio and learned about 5 other different kinds of programs, the roof came off. And when the roof came off, I said, there it is. We have architecture. Nobody else has got architecture. We were too poor to tear down our architecture, thank goodness. And that's how we're going to do this. Myself and some other people, Jim Wendell, Tim Lewis, Jim Stiver, decided, okay, the roof's off. The architecture's there. We can take the lead of Heritage Ohio and we can begin to have events downtown so that potential investors can come and see our property and start thinking, wow, that'd make a cute little bar, that'd make a cute little restaurant. And that's how it all began. One thing I know after 22 years of being a member of Heritage Ohio is when you get where we are today, you have to have boots on the ground. You have to have people living downtown. And we have no place for those people to live, except I do know there's a few places about to happen. But I was very excited when the whole Oakland thing started, because taking those older historic buildings and making them into first-time homes, that's what millennials want. That's what we need. I was all excited. But right now, it seems to me like we're at a dead standstill. And so I would like to not feel like I'm powerless. I do terrible at being powerless. So I would love it if there would be some kind of a committee put together, some kind of a workshop, something, so that I can learn more about what's going on with Oakland, so that I can get all pumped up again about cute little 2-bedroom starter homes. That's what I want to worry about, cute little 2-bedroom starter homes in the Oakland district. Anybody have any questions for me before the little buzzer goes off and I'm done? If I get done talking in 3 minutes and there's a microphone,
I know that the Oakland neighborhood has a neighborhood association that's meeting regularly, so maybe that would be a way to learn a little bit more about what's going on in
I do know about that. I haven't made it to a meeting yet, but I think they kind of went dormant for a minute, as did the rest
I think they just
of
had
the
a
world.
meeting last week or
At the last council meeting, I think, Jim, did you mention the potential for a workshop about Oakland specifically to get us all back on the same page about what's going on? I thought I heard a reference to that.
Madam Mayor, I don't know if I specifically mentioned it, but I was going to offer that it's a very good idea. And I think here in the next couple of months, as we better solidify some of the plans, know a little bit more about the funding and some of these issues, I think it'd be a great idea to really kind of roll some of these things out, to get people involved, to get some excitement going, and to really let people know the kinds of opportunities that are coming and the things that we might be able to do. So I would very much look forward to that, probably later in the summer. I think it's a great idea.
Are we talking 2 months? Seems like a century to a business person.
Yeah. We'll definitely circle up and figure out if we can come up with a good date for that, because I would like a workshop that also allows citizen and stakeholder input and not just one where they just come and listen. So we'll talk to city manager, see if we can organize something at some point. Thank you. Okay, next we have Dan Mazum.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dan Mazum. I live in Glendale, but I am the property owner of 1320 First Avenue, the Carnegie Library. Last time I was before you, I was asking and inquiring about the status of the historic tax credits and the historic district being on the National Register. Ashley did reply and gave me some feedback, which was great, but I wanted to make sure I bring to the surface and again emphasize kind of what Adrienne had said about some kind of workshop so we can all get back on the same page, because last time I think when we left, City Council had voted to move forward with getting the designation on the National Register. That has not happened. That has been stalled. And I do believe because of COVID. But I believe it needs to get back on track because, again, I cannot emphasize enough, the capital stack of my project, $1.3 million, that piece is at risk. And I know that the church, St. John's, I was contacted yesterday, they're also looking at an improvement. And even though they are a nonprofit, there are ways that they could utilize the historic tax credits also. So there are two significant properties within the Oakland district. And I know there are other residents and property owners that have purchased in the last year over COVID that was some incentive for them to buy. But that piece of the puzzle has not been finalized. So again, I echo Adrian's request for a workshop, and 2 months does seem like an eternity. So if there's any way, even a discussion session, we could ramp back up and see what questions have arose since we took a pause, I would love that.
Great. I agree. The speed of business probably should meet a little bit sooner than 2 months, personally.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Dan Barton.
Dan Barton. I live at 338 Central Avenue in Dayton, Ohio. I have been a contractor for the Oakland project since its inception. Our project was terminated on April 17th via email, and since that time, I have been asked by the Oakland president and Dan Mazum, who was just up here, to look into and further pursue the federal and state historic tax credit eligibility issues. And to that issue is why I'm speaking today. The project has basically gotten to about the 95% complete rate in terms of our anticipation from when we started it in 19. It basically is stalled out at this moment around some policy and procedure decisions that commission and staff would need to make. The project remains viable, and within the concept of the project, we were looking at economic values of existing housing stock, its impact with the implementation of special incentives directed to all properties within the area, and beginning an appreciation progress in the real estate market. Since the issue has been stalled with COVID, we have seen that the real estate market is staying strong, interest rates are going down, and real estate is moving quickly, particularly with small and medium investors. In addition, there is interest from Jason Snyder and a company called D.R. Horton within the area, either one of which would be sufficient to make the project extremely viable and the TIF extremely lucrative. We are stalled at this point with some confusion from staff about the National Register status. And in fact, I wanted to make sure that we understood that the SHPO has concluded that, and I'm going to quote, based on the information submitted for the National Register questionnaire and our site visit of August the 12th, the proposed district appears to qualify for the nomination to the National Register of Historic Places, and that was by Barb Powers. We just need to move forward. There is no reason to hold back, particularly with interest in the AK site. So what I would ask is that we convene a work session where we can actually review the policies, the proposals, and the projections of the TIF to see if we can still go forward the way you folks voted for a couple years ago. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have some documents that explain this further that I'd like to give for your dissemination.
Thank you.
I don't remember being informed from staff about the termination of that contract. Did you guys know that was terminated? And do we know why?
Is that a question?
Yes,
What contract specifically are we talking?
the contract with Mr. Barton.
I think
the historic registry.
I think we have made that clear on quite a number of occasions that professional services relationship, had been severed quite some time ago, probably 8 or 9 months ago, it seems to me, or maybe I'm a little bit off on the
He just said
timing.
it was terminated on the 17th of April.
Well, perhaps I'm a little bit off on the timing, but I know that the intent was there and it was ultimately concluded.
Can you tell us why it was concluded?
I don't think this is an appropriate time, off the cuff, to get into a whole series of issues related to this particular development issue, this particular consultant, and a lot of other issues that go into it. This is simply not an appropriate time. I mean, we're not prepared to do that.
Okay, I'd definitely like that to be a topic of discussion at the workshop then, so that we can also be transparent with the public about that issue too. Okay, next we have Wanda Glover.
I am Wanda Glover. I chair the Second Ward Middletown Community Council, and I'm also on the board of the Oakland Group. My question
Can you
is
state
that
your
I
address
had
for the record as well?
Excuse me?
Can you state your address for the record as well?
1106 Calumet Avenue.
Thank you.
Okay. I have property on Calumet and also on Girard. And it's been floating around that we were going to get apartments or housing in this area. I know with our former city manager, he had hoped that we would make these beautiful areas with trees and all this. He painted this great picture. Now I'm hearing that possibly the AK buildings are going to turn into storage or into industrial shells, and trucks are going to be coming in and out of our area. And I'm just wondering why. Why is it always our area that gets all the ref? You know, the smoke, the, trucks and things of that nature, when we were looking forward to having a beautiful community. And now they're saying that the city bought AK's land, and now it's going to be storage areas, and it's going to be a truck route put through that area. And I really don't want it close to my house. I definitely don't want it in our neighborhood. And it's going to be close to the downtown area. So it's going to stop business from coming downtown with all that. So I just want to know, is it true?
So I would like to make a comment. From my understanding, what the city is looking at that land to do is to use it light industrial, which light industrial, maybe we need a definition of that more, but like research and development was more what was referenced. So some actually good quality paying jobs. I don't believe there was
No,
any
but why always in this area? Why not I'm just trying to understand, we got all of the shelters, we get all of the stuff that you don't want in your lovely area. So why? That's all I'm saying. Why? Can't you build storage areas and find jobs and factories somewhere else?
I don't think we're referencing factories in this case at all.
Well, I know you aren't, but you're referencing trucks and stuff, a truck route and so forth.
I don't believe there's any discussion of a truck route going through there.
This is just what I heard.
Right, and that's where, this is a good discussion. I'm glad you're here to talk about it, because this is how we dispel rumors, right? I don't think from city staff's perspective that is the plan, is a truck route and trucks coming and going from that area, because we all agree we don't want industry in that area. We actually want improved economic development in a positive way. And
what happened to the apartments and the houses and things that were supposed to be going to be built in that area? If you do that, the houses there are going to be devalued, because who's going to want to move around an industrial site? How all we get is empty lots that we can't build on, land that we can't buy.
So how about this, Wanda? Can I give you a phone call and we have a good one-on-one discussion about it? Because I would love to talk to you.
Because my community's asking me.
Sure, yeah.
They want to know. Some of them couldn't come tonight because they didn't get off work till 5:30. So.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to
you.
call you. Is this this number right here good?
Oh, yes.
Yep. Okay.
937.
I will give you a phone call tomorrow. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next we have Jason Snyder.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jason Snyder, 843 Dayton Street, Hamilton, Ohio. I believe 1213 Maple Avenue. is used on the card. That is where our business is. I'm the owner of Tams Construction, also partner of the development group that put a bid in on the AK Steel property, or research and development property. I believe I reached out to a few of you. City manager I had a face-to-face conversation with, along with Ms. Cohen, several other people. I've not gotten any responses, which is why I'm here this evening. Similar to what everyone else is asking, what's the plan? I strongly disagree with the light industrial plan. Been doing this for 23 years. I used to work for Kuhn Restoration. I was a project manager for them for 15 years. Been doing it on my own now for 8. I agree with one of the previous members stated you need, some feet and boots on the ground in your downtown to rejuvenate your downtown. Been a very instrumental part of that in Hamilton. So I guess my question is, can I get that meeting? Is someone going to call me back?
I know economic development was interested in meeting with you specifically. I do know that much. The city manager mentioned that to set up a meeting. So can I send you, have an email address somewhere? I can send you economic development's contact info?
Sure.
Or I can even
I've spoke with Chriselle. She's got my information.
Okay, so let's make sure, Jim, is it possible for Chriselle then to reach out to him to set that meeting up?
Sure.
Okay, that would be good. And then also we'll keep you informed because we want to have a meeting, a workshop about Oakland, and it sounds like you would be a great individual to participate in that as well and help us with that discussion.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to Candace Keller.
Candace Keller, 3430 Central Avenue. When the higher-ranking civil authority makes unjust or immoral law, mandates, policy, or court opinion, the lower or lesser-ranking civil authority has both the God-given right and duty not to obey the superior authority, and if necessary, to actively resist them. With Governor DeWine's latest media appearance on Wednesday, May 12th, he has once again proven that it will be up to local government to work in favor of the citizens of Ohio. Our state leaders are clearly working toward further pushing of an agenda that the voters of Middletown find repugnant and intrusive. While City Council members oversee the financial future of Middletown, we also now come to you to act further in the best interest of Middletonians. Illegal mask mandates and illegally requiring medical personal information from the citizens of Middletown, such as vaccination status stickers and open health files, is improper and insulting to all Americans. Shutting us down and punting to the state is not what city government is capable of doing, nor will we settle for that. We have now learned we cannot trust our state leaders to listen to us, and we are now approaching you. We're facing a situation in our nation where 1/3 of small business owners are bracing for bankruptcy and further hardship due to what we now see as government intrusion into private business and personal rights of liberty with which we were born. I'm approaching City Council in the role of interposer, as we wish to request that you take the authority you already possess to nullify illegal orders and remind you of your oath of office. We, the citizens, are not your enemies. Rather, we want to help empower you with our support to act on your authority as council members to change the climate in Middletown toward restored trust, freedom of our personal liberty, and economic growth and prosperity. Several legislative bodies across America are doing this very thing and writing ordinances and resolutions to nullify unlawful mask mandates. And I have brought samples for you. This is an ordinance that was written by attorney Michael Perutka, which applies to Middletown so that you can now utilize your powers in such a way as to protect individual rights. It states, for the most part, being enacted that all federal or state acts, laws, orders, rules, mandates, lockdowns, and regulations passed by the federal or state government, past, present, or future, which violate an individual's lawful First Amendment rights to assemble or Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights to privacy, including but not limited to personal medical decisions, shall be invalid in this city, not be recognized in this city, and specifically rejected by this city, and shall be considered null and void and of no effect in the city of Middletown. Additionally, it states that mask mandates and all other illegal orders coming from state directive will not be punishable by law. I was also approached by business owners in Middletown that asked me to.
3 minutes are up.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Is that in our, I can't remember. Can we defer? I know there was you guys able to help me with that one?
Yes, we have done it before, but then we had a lengthy discussion and council came up with the guidelines for citizens' comments. I think we landed that you could not defer your time.
The sixth bullet point down on the rules indicates delegation of one time to another is prohibited.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Next speaker is Levi Hensley.
Levi Hensley, 3229 Yankee Road.
Thank you.
What are we going to do to clean up our city? What is our plans? I'm currently selling my house. The trash is terrible. I've got a hold of every one of you. You don't reply. I even come to your restaurant, ate there. You said, I'll email you. I'll get back with you. I got somebody that's going to get in contact with you. 3-4 months later, nothing. This guy here, he's always replying back to me. He says, we're going to do this, but nothing ever gets done. I mean, it's trash. I mean, the neighborhoods are just terrible, and nothing ever gets done. But we're currently paying for security from downtown Middletown. Is that true?
That's on the agenda tonight to discuss.
We're going to pay thousands of dollars for security when we have police departments. Why don't we put that money towards more police? Right? Does that not make sense? Why would we need security? That's insulting to our police department. Okay, and number 2 thing is, about 4 months ago, me and Amy had a conversation on Facebook that turned south. I was threatened with baseball bats. I was threatened with meatloaf from her restaurant. You're looking like you're confused. I'll read it. Is it okay if I read this out loud? Ashley Baumgarten said.
City business?
Hang on one
That's the
second.
rules. Is this related to city business?
Absolutely. You're part of the city. This is city business.
That you're talking about my meatloaf?
No, I'm talking about what you said to me. Ashley Baumgarten said, I just got on Facebook. I removed myself. I know this young man. You say, oof. And then you say, you are a badass mama, and I will grab a bat and follow you anywhere.
To Ashley.
Ashley says, to my house.
No,
Ashley
not to
says,
your house.
emphasizes on young, he can't be old enough to be worried about taxes. For your information, I'm 22 years old. I bought a house here at 20.
That's great.
I have a great paying job.
I would suggest
This
we
has
should
nothing to
not
do with
engage in individual attacks.
This is not the role. And you
Yeah,
also
this is
have never
not
emailed
appropriate.
me, so I just checked.
Ashley
I would
says,
just ask that we just maintain respectful
Okay.
communications and
Yes, ma'am.
facts related to.
Ashley says, I have a truck now, so bring more than one bat.
These are jokes that she made because your comments were completely rude and disrespectful. And if you don't have a sense of humor, I'm sorry, but this is inappropriate. This is
And
not the place for it. If you don't like me, it's
She
fine.
says, I've already dreamed about
I'm sorry,
writing
this
bitch
is not
in that gorgeous
appropriate, and we're
Cassandra.
done. This is not related to city business at all.
If you are on city council, this is city business.
It is not city
You
business. Do
cannot talk to constituents like that on the,
you want to read what you said to me? No, because it's
Guys,
disrespectful.
okay, that's enough. Let's stop. This is not an appropriate conversation.
I'm just saying,
Personal,
what's wrong? So
and I appreciate.
I ask that you all treat the cities and the people in the city a little better.
Vice versa.
Well, I didn't ever disrespect you, but y'all have a good day. That's all I got. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I told you this is the day. I'm done.
Okay, next individual is Kent Keller II.
Kent Keller, Wellington Road, 2040. Yesterday, I have 4 kids. Yesterday, I told my youngest to go clean his room. This morning, he came downstairs on getting dressed for school and said, I don't have anything to wear. I said, put the blue polo on, the blue polo shirt that he wears to his Christian school. And he said, I don't have anything in my closet. I said, let's go upstairs and look. So I went upstairs and looked, and it was all, there's nothing, there's no blue polos in the closet. It was all under his bed. And I feel like that's what we're doing with the private security thing that's going to be voted on later. We're paying $50,000 a year, I believe, from what I read, to do what? To have Paul Blart, mall cop, come and ride his scooter up and down the sidewalk and move the homeless to the next street over, so that people have homeless people in their backyard. And I feel like we're just sweeping everything under the bed. And you guys, ran. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys ran as helping to clean up the city. And I feel like we're kind of just sweeping it underneath the bed and hoping the parents don't look. And we are the parents, the voters, the taxpayers, the citizens. You guys work for us. And I feel like this plan is not a solution. I feel like it's a Band-Aid, and it just moves it. It moves it to the street behind Central. I want to know what is your solution for the homeless. I'm not saying it's easy. I don't know. I talked to some of my friends in other cities, and it's a difficult thing to deal with. I understand we don't want to violate people's rights. We don't want to tell people where they can and can't go. But I believe the security thing, from what I've read, is a waste of money, and it could be better. It could be put towards a police officer or off-duty police officers. $50,000 is a lot of money, and everyone in town is always talking about how we need more police officers, and that's an actual solution. Police officers have training. Security guards do not. They have very little. Police officers have authority to enforce loitering, all the other things that homeless do. What is the security guard going to do? He's going to say, please move. And the homeless guy's going to say no. What do you do? What do you do when the homeless guy says no? The security guard calls the police. The Middletown police come down, and we're back where we started. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that completes our citizen comments for today. That brings us to council comments. We'll start to my right with Ms. Ninney.
I have no comments for tonight. I'll save that for legislation. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Moon.
Yes, just two comments. First, want to say, glad that you're here, glad that you're healing up, glad you're okay. And then second, Wanda's here. Just wanted to comment on your concern, and just from my perspective, certainly Oakland is very much on my radar. I think many of the things that you're talking about are still very much in process. As we go through a management change, take some time to ramp things back up. But I certainly think a lot of those things are still going on. And from my perspective, we have a lot of cleanup to do, specifically in that Route 4 corridor with specifically with paperboard. And I really think we do see that as a job opportunity zone, but not something that's going to pollute the neighborhood, as something that's going to improve the neighborhood. At least that's how I see it. And I don't believe there's anybody plugged in, ready to come in and redevelop any of those sites. So we welcome your feedback on what's going to be a good use there and not disturb the neighborhood, but enhance the neighborhood. And I think that's my goal, at least. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Mulligan?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll add to Councilman Moon's comments on the Oakland to Ms. Glover or anybody else, the interested parties. I mean, yes, the infill housing is going to, that's a key focus for what we want to do in that area. Redevelopment of Oakland Park, rehabilitation of the older historic home sites. I think the old Vale site is ripe for a multi-use residential retail. We want that to be the new foundation of the neighborhood. So yes, it's new residents, rehab residents. It's all there. That's still a focus. The old Armco AK site, it's a little bit different. Depending on what needs to be remediated there, what can be the next use for that. So if there is a commercial use for it, we absolutely would consider that, but at the same time, we wouldn't want to undermine what we're trying to accomplish in the residential side of it. So there's various plans on the table, but yeah, obviously, we're putting a focus on Oakland because we want it to be better for the people living there and the people who want to live there in the future. So I look forward to that workshop coming up whenever that's scheduled. I see a couple representatives from Downtown Middletown Incorporated and wanted to congratulate them on a job well done with the 2021 Women's Wine and Chocolate Walk, and had an opportunity to volunteer for that. Their marquee fundraiser, it was perfect weather, well attended, and very well executed. So my hat's off to that organization and so many volunteers that made that possible. I talked personally to many ladies who attended, and they were not from Middletown, and they were getting a new look or a look again at downtown's revitalization, and all of them were impressed. So it was a great way to showcase what's happening positively in our community. So with that, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Vittori.
Thank you. Much like I say to my children, I will apologize for raising my voice, but I am Italian, and sometimes that makes it difficult. I also want to congratulate DMI after a difficult year of no events on which they rest their majority of their fundraising and efforts. It was really wonderful to see nearly 800 women downtown smiling, enjoying themselves with masks off, and I personally know how much work that those volunteers put in to make that event happen. So I think we're all grateful to DMI for their continued efforts on the behalf of really the promotion of all of Middletown. As we know, and statistics and white papers and research show, often downtowns are the authentic heartbeat that define a city. So I am very proud of how we were defined this weekend, and I want to thank DMI. That's all. Thank you.
Well, let's see, I'll address the elephant in the room. I kept meaning to schedule a ride-along with the fire department, and I somehow managed to get that tour without the schedule last Wednesday. So I just want to say thank you to our fire and EMS. You guys are incredible. They were really professional, and very grateful for that. And also the staff at Atrium was amazing, and gave me this new Wonder Woman hardware here, so you can expect great things out of that. So anyway, I just wanted to say life is constantly throwing us challenges. They can be of all sorts, right? Some are more obvious than others. Some can be life-threatening. Some can be, we had all sorts of challenges thrown at us this evening as a city. Our citizens see challenges all the time. And we get the chance, though, to choose how to view those challenges. And no one gets to decide how to view them but us. And I choose to look at challenges as opportunities. And in this case, I guarantee you, I'm going to come out of this stronger mentally and physically than if it never happened to me at all. So I hope that our city can take these challenges that we're hearing tonight and look at them as opportunities and make something better out of it in the end than if it never happened at all. And so we can take challenges, turn them into opportunities, and ultimately they come out as gifts. So I just want to encourage everyone in our city to come together and really think about how we view all of these challenges in front of us and come together as a community and build a stronger community as a result of all of them. So, and then temporarily, you can have a laugh at the mayor's signature for the next couple months because I am not left-handed, so that'll be fun. Okay, that brings us to the city manager report. Mr. Palahniuk.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of City Council. A couple things we wanted to mention this evening. The city's Independence Day celebration is back on July 3rd between 4 and 11 p.m. The Independence Day celebration will be coming back to Smith Park. There will be fireworks provided by the Yoakum Fireworks Company. There will be food and beer vendors, live entertainment by local bands, including Madrigal, who is a Santana tribute band. The fireworks display will begin at 9:30 p.m., and our presenting sponsor this year is Kettering Health. Also, the Memorial Day Parade, which is not put on by the city, but a really beautiful job is done by some great volunteers within the community. They will be holding that on May the 31st. The parade will begin at 10 o'clock, the ceremony at 11:30. It will begin in Smith Park, and then the ceremony will be held at Woodside Cemetery. Also just wanted to shout out to the graduates of Middletown High School as well as Butler Tech. This is that time of year, so it's great to see folks actually graduating, which is nice. Also wanted to acknowledge that Governor DeWine was here this week and made a great presentation of a $125,000 grant to the school district as well as SWOCA for doing some bringing broadband internet capacity to the Amanda Elementary School area. So excited by that. So just wanted to note that. So really appreciate it. And that's all that I have.
Great, thank you. That brings us to consent agenda. Skink.
For your consideration this evening, we have the approval of the city council minutes from April 6th, May 4th, and May 7th, 2021. To receive and file the Board of Health minutes from April the 13th, 2021. To confirm the personnel appointment of Jonathan Hilgelford. I practiced this earlier and I got it right, and I botched it. Hilgendorf and Brian Singleton to the position of patrol officer in the Department of Public Safety Division of Police. To receive and file oaths of office for Dustin Alcorn and Jason Mossbarger. To approve the purchase of a new 2021 Chevy Tahoe four-wheel drive SSV off the ODAS contract for the Division of Police in the total amount of $36,553 from Ganley Chevrolet of Aurora LLC. To authorize a professional services contract with Jacobs Engineering for the design of a new filter backwash disposal line to the sanitary sewer, and to approve the following board and commission appointments. To the Board of Health, Sally Cash. To the Citizens Advisory Board, Dr. Celeste Didlick Davis, representing Middletown NAACP, Jeff Wilder, representing the Youth Coalition, Stephen Wanamaker, representing the Board of Realtors, and Jelani Johnson as a resident. Keep in mind, there may be more positions that may become available in the next coming weeks. So we'll make those appointments as we get more information.
I move to approve the issues and actions set forth in the consent agenda.
Second?
Ms. Skink, could you please call the roll when you're ready?
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
That brings us to legislation. Ms. Cohen?
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 10 matters for your consideration this evening. We are asking that 5 be considered as emergency measures. So it asks for there's a motion to waive charter requirements for 2 readings and 30 days to enactment regarding ordinance number O 2021-43, resolution R 2021-24, ordinance O 2021-45, resolution R 2021-28, and ordinance O 2021-46.
Before we make a motion, I actually have a couple comments, and I propose that we change a couple of these to first readings, and so I'm just going to make those comments now, and then we can decide if we want to do that. But the R 2021-24 about the community service, I love this program. I just don't see a need for this as emergency. While it's convenient to circumvent Ohio laws that seem to slow us down, they are in place for a reason, and if we don't agree with the reasoning, then we really need to focus on getting the state legislation changed, but we can't just keep circumventing the legal intent because we don't like it. And I really, in this case, emergency should be an exception and not the norm, and I just don't see the need for the emergency for this particular item.
This is the court community service program?
Yeah.
And this is a second reading.
Second reading emergency, yeah, I think it is, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was on the last meeting's agenda as an emergency with a first reading. Yes.
Yeah. The other one is O 2021-46, the private security grant to DMI. So the issue that I have with this one being emergency is, this is a kind of a strategic thing. So it's public trust is the topic I want to talk about. And it's earned as individuals, but it really only works effectively when we have it as a unit, right? So as a public entity, we want to earn that trust together as a community. And tonight, this legislation that's proposed puts city council in a very awkward position as a group because it's emergency legislation, so it requires 4 yes votes. And obviously, it does have a direct positive impact on 2 council members' businesses. Now, it also has a direct positive impact on a lot of other downtown businesses as well. but I feel it does put them in an awkward position, and when it comes to public trust, it is not easy to maintain that when you're put in that position as a council member or as a group. So can they?
So that
Sure.
I'm speaking for myself.
Absolutely.
It does not put me in an awkward position, and there was a recommendation from our legal department that said that there should be no conflict with Amy and I voting on that issue.
Correct.
I just don't want to be spoken for.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also do not feel awkward because the ethics opinion came down that it was not a direct benefit to our businesses singularly, and that therefore we can vote on it, so I do not feel awkward.
Okay, fair enough. So in my opinion, technically, yes, you can vote on those things, but I feel like, should we is the question, and our public trust as a unit starts to deteriorate in circumstances like this. And so I just, my personal opinion is like, I do not plan to vote on, for example, I'll abstain from, when it comes to a vote, the automated weather observation station purchase, because I could benefit from having better weather resources at the airport as an airport tenant. So I'm just not going to do that because there's no reason for me to do that. So I understand that there's a desire for emergency in the matter on this particular one. However, the citizens voted in a mix of council that does have 2 business owners downtown, and that has its limitations sometimes. And I don't think there's a way we can expect either of these 2 council members to vote objectively on this. And I mean that in a positive way. Like, I just think it's difficult to do as someone who owns a business on this topic. And for the acquisition of public trust, I just don't support it as emergency because I would like to maintain that public trust. So that's why I personally propose that we change these both to first readings. That is my opinion on the matter. Obviously, we all have our own opinions, and we can all vote accordingly, but that would be my...
This came about at the request of nearly a dozen businesses downtown who this summer are hoping that they can recover, and they would like to have this in place for the summer. So if it's not emergency, we're looking at 60 days, which is the middle of summer for these businesses. So while I agree with you, I would love to not have to make some decision that might seem awkward to some, but at the same time, that shouldn't limit or prohibit dozens and dozens of businesses from having the opportunity to get what they're requesting in a timely manner.
Thank you. Does anyone see, so let's back up to the community service one. Is anybody interested in changing that to single reading or leaving it?
Mayor, I think the advantage of having the emergency means, emergency does require the supermajority of council, and then the benefit is that it's enacted immediately instead of waiting, Ms. Cohn, is it 60 days or 30?
30.
30 days to enactment. So that's the benefit, that both these programs can get up and running, and we're trying to operate at the speed of business.
We could say that about every single thing we do, though. It would be convenient for it to all be emergency from the city staff perspective.
I don't think that's true. I think sometimes it's good to take the time when we ask questions and have people come back. I like that when we're able to do it, but I think there are circumstances where that's not feasible or it's not the best choice, and I think these are examples.
There was also an opportunity to question the emergency measure on the first resolution, the program with the jail, at the last meeting, and that wasn't brought up at the last meeting.
No, which is why it's a good thing it wasn't an emergency legislation. That meeting is a full-on emergency. It's a second reading emergency now. Which
was presented as an
proves
emergency
the
issue.
point that it's a good idea to have all of these readings, because we don't always think of things in the moment. We need the time to process.
Mr. Palaniuk or Ms. Cohen, on number 2, the community service program, was there any reason beyond just getting cleanup going more quickly? To Mr. Hensley's point, we want to get people out there cleaning up our city. Was that kind of the reason behind the recommendation?
Councilman Munya, absolutely. Because particularly in the summertime, you tend to see these programs become more robust, and, we need to get the supervision. We would have to find them, get the supplies. So this simply authorizes us to begin that, and then there would still be a bit of a lag before we can do that. And then we would have the ability to support the community service workers and really get them out there. So obviously the goal is get them out there as quickly as we can. We would really love to see some of these areas cleaned up.
The reasoning that was in the staff report said that it was so that the city jail could enact the program in the coming months. Now, the request that I have is only that it not be an emergency, which only means it's 30 days from today. And I don't even think they're ready for the program. So to me, it's a principal issue of just trying to constantly push emergency through when we don't have to. Obviously, I'm outvoted on that, and that's okay.
Try to push emergency through, we don't have to. I think that's a mischaracterization.
Okay, that's your opinion. Okay, so if someone wants to make an motion to what Ms. Cohen stated earlier for emergency legislation, you're welcome to do so.
I move to waive the charter provision requiring readings on 2 separate days, and that the previously read ordinances and resolutions be declared emergencies and read one time only.
Second.
Ms. Ganku, please call the roll.
Mayor Condrey,
No?
Ms. Vettori,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan.
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Cohen, can you start with the first one for us?
Yes.
Thank you.
The first matter is ordinance O 2021-43, an ordinance authorizing the submission of an application for federal assistance and action plan and projected use of funds under Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended for program year 2021 and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Any comments or questions on this one? Mr. Palaniuk, did you want to add anything? Sorry, I know it's an emergency one, so I didn't know.
We had talked about this at the last time. Basically, this is our normal yearly submission for federal funds, CDBG. This is the 21-22 program. We get approximately $770,000 per year in entitlement. This has already been included in our budget. It covers the May 1st, 2021 through April 30th, 2022, and it also approves the action plan.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Vettori,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Next matter is Resolution R 2021-24, a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Middletown, Counties of Butler and Warren, State of Ohio, for the period ending December 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency, this involving the general and stormwater funds.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Any comments or questions? This one?
Just same as I mentioned to the judge at the last meeting, I'm glad to see this on our agenda and for legislation. This is something that he's been talking about for a very long time, something that he's talked about implementing since I first got onboarded to city council. So seeing this actually enacted is something that I was really excited about, and I hope to see in action, and I hope to see it really clean up our city in a way that is impactful to the citizens.
I agree.
I think one of the benefits also, if I may, to enacting this now is that we were working to get this set up so that for the July 3rd celebration, we could have a crew available to help with the cleanup, to help address some of those issues, help the city staff, and really get the program kicked off.
Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Ms. Vettori.
Yes.
Next matter will be ordinance number O 2021-44, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with MCI and Butler County Regional Transit Authority for the purchase of up to 5 45-foot heavy-duty commuter coaches.
So move for adoption.
Second.
I did have one question. I thought of it at the last meeting, but Mr. Palaniuk or Ms. Cohen, who carries the liability and physical damage insurance on these?
If I may,
Please.
Butler County RTA, as part of our contract, carries the insurance on those buses while they're in operation. The exact company is eluding me at the moment, but they work through an Ohio buying collaborative for the insurance of the operation of those buses. There is a little city insurance when they're being maintained, so they're housed in our garage to do maintenance, but actually the operation, the day-to-day driving and things are handled by Butler County.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Ms. Vettori.
Yes.
The next matter is Resolution R 2021-25, a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Middletown, Counties of Butler and Warren, State of Ohio, for the period ending December 31st, 2021. This being an appropriation transfer for the Downtown Improvement Fund, here for a second reading.
So move for adoption.
Second?
Any other comments or questions on this? Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes?
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
The next matter is Resolution R 2021-26, a resolution authorizing the purchase of real property known as 69 South Main Street from the Hutch LLC, here for a second reading.
So move for adoption.
Second?
Any comments or questions on this one? Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Condrey?
Yes?
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
The next matter is Ordinance O 2021-45, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a grant agreement with the Middletown, Ohio Kiwanis Foundation and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second?
Mr. Palanick, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of City Council, this specific grant from the city to the Ohio Kiwanis Foundation would be using the remainder of our Community Development Block Grant CARES monies, and they have to go to serve low to moderate income areas or low to moderate income residents specifically. The grant would be in the amount of $45,000. It would allow the foundation to build a new play structure at the Amanda Elementary School playground, and this new structure would fully meet ADA requirements. And so we've determined that there are 407 students that attend that elementary school. There are another approximately 100 children who live in the neighborhood, and among those students and children, there are at least 10 autistic children and 10 physically challenged children. So they now, with the opportunity to have this new play structure that is ADA compliant, would have a chance to be playing in something that typically they wouldn't have that opportunity for. This certainly meets the intent of both the legislation and the funding, so we enthusiastically would recommend approval of this grant to the Ohio Kiwanis Foundation.
And as a member of the organization, I was told it's okay to go ahead and vote on this.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions from council on it? Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Item number 7 is Resolution R 2021-28, a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Middletown, Counties of Butler and Warren, State of Ohio, for the period ending December 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency, this involving the street levy fund.
So move for adoption.
Second?
Mr. Palanick, did you want to speak to this one?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of City Council, this particular item is a budget amendment to our 2021 budget, specifically having to do with the funding that has been placed in a segregated account from the pavement levy. And we will be doing this periodically as we actually spend those dollars. And this is the first of those expenditures, if you will. So the first actual expenditure will be $89,482.65. And that will be to pay the very first bond interest payment that comes due June 1st, 2021. So obviously that's the reason for the emergency in this case, because that has to be paid prior to that time. And then also $25,000 will go to professional services, and those will be used to communicate with our citizens as this very large project moves forward, and we're able to try to continually update the community as to where the paving will occur and what to expect next. So as a result, the total of those two expenditures is $114,482.65. And of course, that will all come from the $31.3 million pavement levy.
Any comments or questions? Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Item number 8 is ordinance O-2021-46, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a grant agreement, with Downtown Middletown Incorporated and declaring an emergency.
So moved for adoption.
Second?
Mr. Pelenick.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of council, as you know, we have discussed quite a number of times the issues of homelessness and how we can react to it. And we have had multiple conversations about various ways to approach it, and we continue to have further discussions about who we can partner with from a county perspective, a state perspective, some of the other jurisdictions. And then more recently, we've talked about some of the shorter term things that we can do. And we recently approved of a pilot program for 6 months with One City for Recovery in order to do some case management so that they can effectively get to some of the homeless individuals and try to understand what are the specific obstacles that are making them homeless and how can they help to try to eliminate or mitigate some of those obstacles, to work with the police department as well. Another part of some of the things we've been hearing and have always been part of this issue is the idea of simple security and that there be a more complete presence, particularly in the downtown area. And while that is part of this, there's another part of this, and that is, I think what we recognized was the Downtown Middletown, Inc., which is a really hardworking, great organization that represents our downtown, have always struggled with resources. They don't have a lot of resources, so it's very hard for them to oftentimes do in any sort of a robust fashion some of the programs that you would typically see funded by downtown groups like this. And we know that as they try to evolve over time and develop a more recurring fund base, that sometimes they need a little help and support from the city. So this idea was, typically two of the primary things that downtown agencies typically do is they provide individual private security, and then they do maintenance, street maintenance. They plant flowers, they keep the things clean, they pick up trash, they make sure things are done like that. And it's very hard to do those things if you don't have a recurring revenue stream. So both in combination with the sort of the compassionate disruption on the homeless issue, we wanted to have a pilot program for 6 months that would be offered as a grant to DMI to see if they could provide an effective look at how security might be provided within their area of governance, their jurisdiction. And we just said to them basically, what would a program look like, for a 6-month period if you could keep it relatively cost effective and provide as high a level of sort of boots on the ground as you could. And they came up with a committee that worked really hard at this, looking at how they would, sort of put this together and develop it. And figured that the best way that this could come together would be a program that would provide 2 security officers between 8 o'clock in the morning until midnight on the days of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So 5 days a week for 80 hours a week. And they vetted and they interviewed a whole series of particular firms, and they came to the recommendation, and their committee was unanimous in this, that I believe it's Allied Universal was the firm that they felt could best serve their needs. And the cost for a 6-month period in doing this would be $49,724. So this action item is asking to provide a grant to DMI in the amount of $49,724 so that they in turn could create this sort of pilot program for a 6-month period to see what the kind of security patrol and security response would look like if they hired this particular firm. And they would work closely also with One City for Recovery as well as the Middletown Police Department. And these funds then would come from the city's undesignated general fund reserve. That reserve currently is a little bit over $12 million, about 32.2% of our yearly budget. And so, of course, one of the questions, too, was, could we do this with city police officers? Could we pay off-duty police officers? And we could do that. The cost would be substantially higher. The wages for a similar 80 hours per week on off-duty police officers would be about $96,000 instead of the $49,000. The other issue, of course, would be it might be very difficult to really provide the kind of response to some of the other high priority things that we need because we are so lacking in staffing. I mean, the one thing I think was said tonight, and I will never disagree with, is we are understaffed in the police department. So, when we do assign them to certain off-duty things that are other off-duty things that they wouldn't be able to do, and there could be some overtime that others that might be taking that assignment might not be able to do. So there are some impacts on the chief's staffing. The other thing I wanted to make clear of that, this was an idea that didn't come necessarily from obviously the police department or others, but came from my office because it was a response to try to package a pilot program of security with this other pilot program of the case management, and recognizing that it might be easier for DMI if we granted them the funds and they determined what the program looked like, who they should hire, and how they should go about doing it. Because really, they're the folks that have to figure out how to make this work. And ultimately, over the long term, it might be where they can come up with a recurring revenue stream and be able to do it. But we wanted to be able to provide them some funding to see how this would work up front. So hence the genesis for putting this together and the reasoning behind it. And I know there are folks from DMI, and I know they worked really hard on the proposal itself. So if you had specific questions from them, I know that either Jeff Payne or Chairman Mr. Vittori would be willing to respond to that.
And just to kind of take to a further point for some of the concerns earlier, the goal is that this security team would then work also with the one city folks, so that we're not just ushering the homeless people a few blocks over or a neighborhood over. The goal is that these people then would be able to more directly connect these homeless people with services, so the goal being to actually get them help. And so this is just another layer of wraparound, not an attempt to just shuffle people from one spot to another.
So, Mr. Palaniuk, my question is really more future-oriented than necessarily the next 6 months, and it's a point Ms. Nenny's made several times. I'd be interested in this kind of being a runway to a SID, a special improvement district, so that the city doesn't continue to have to fund this if it were to pass. Is that something that's being considered, and what would be the steps to start putting that in place as far as pulling that together?
Councilman Moon, I think that was very much the thought process too. That's why it was a pilot. That's why it's 6 months. We recognize DMI doesn't have the kind of recurring revenue stream that's able to do something like this. But as we continue to see more investment, more interest in the downtown, it makes a lot of sense to either have a SID or, quite honestly, maybe a new community authority that may become part of our riverfront redevelopment project. So there may be other ways that we do this, but that would create the sort of revenue stream that recurs to be able to do this and not have to come back to the city or its general fund in the future. So again, the plan would not be to have this as a permanent comeback each time, but in fact use some of this time to figure out a way ultimately to have that revenue stream that they would be able to do not just this, but other kinds of maintenance and improvement things that you would typically see of a downtown agency.
Well, I definitely feel for the downtown businesses, and I think everyone in the city feels the same issues that they do in very different ways. Obviously, it's the city, the issues are citywide, they're nationwide, and they're not contained to the downtown. My concern is, I have a few. First of all, I feel like this sets a precedence for any entity in Middletown then requesting that the city pay for private security to address homeless issues in their area of either business or residence. I also feel like it doesn't solve the issue, and it really, I mean, while it's great to think that we're gonna get one city to come in and help every individual, the reality is it is gonna push them off a block or two into the neighborhoods and the businesses next to downtown and essentially making it someone else's problem. The bike trail now becomes an issue. The Oakland neighborhood now starts getting the homeless more. I just don't think it solves the root issue, and I personally would rather spend more money on the social services than to address the root causes than to move them around like chess pieces. And I just don't, that doesn't sit well with me. And I also worry about the liability. So say they don't have authority, any arrest authority or anything like that. And what if, I don't know, maybe Susan, you have any insight into this, but like if these contractors were to make a false arrest or illegal detainment or injure or hurt someone, who becomes liable for that? I don't know the answer to that, and you may not at this moment either. But that is a concern that also is running in the back of my mind. Do you happen to know off the top of your head? I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
I don't know if I'd be able to provide you an intelligent enough
no problem.
response at this point.
Provide an answer to that, since they did all the research.
Yeah, Jeff, do you know the answer to that one?
And the city would not be a party to the contract, would they?
No, this is, the legislative action is to provide a grant to DMI, so we are not the contracting authority with the security company. I can't 100% tell you right now that that limits our liability. I don't want to present that, but there is some insulation given the fact that we are not actually entering into the contract with the security company.
Okay, Your Honor, Jeff Payne, Downtown Middletown, Inc., 1050 Central Avenue. I'm going to, if you could go back through your questions, I'll try to respond to each of them. Or let me first give you an overview. One of the reasons why the committee selected this particular organization is one, it will give us a consistent set of officers that we would be working with, plus it would allow us to develop a closer relationship with all of the businesses downtown. So it's, I heard someone come in here and call them mall cops or whatever, but it's always good to have a good relationship between the businesses and the security company that we're working with. Secondly, as when we at our last meeting and prior to that, when we first had our meeting with the businesses, and they shared with us their concerns, and particularly the times of day that we're having this issue of loitering, vagrancy, and things of that nature. It became pretty obvious that these were real critical times when the businesses needed to have that atmosphere where their customers could come downtown and feel safe. So one of the things that I did is started to go out and reach out and talk to a number of the social service organizations in our downtown, letting them know that we were looking at moving forward with this type of effort, because what we did not want to have is a situation where, as you've just mentioned, we're just pushing people off. So we wanted to make sure that places like The Gathering and et cetera knew that we were doing this, and that as they work with their clients, that they would be sort of a buffer and have the ability to explain what was going on. The other thing is that while this contract is it's for the entire downtown district, which is basically about 10 blocks. And so we would have the ability with this to do some other things, to generate some data regarding certain properties that may be attractors of the kinds of activities that tend to create or continue the problems that we've been experiencing. And that's information we can begin to share with the city so that they can begin to do things in terms of whatever nuisance or other types of enforcement that need to be done. We have the ability to get certain types of assessments done to working with the businesses. For example, things like lighting at night. Oftentimes, if someone is homeless or just out and they come upon a building that does not have, say, motion detecting lighting, that is not a deterrent. So that those kinds of assessments would be made available that we could share with the various building owners and things of that nature.
So that the individual doesn't sit in that building, but yet in the neighborhood behind it instead?
That's correct. I mean, there are certain patterns. Well,
I mean, see where I'm going with that. That's, if we're, I mean, if okay, so a building then puts in a motion detector that deters the homeless person from staying on the stoop of that building, that homeless person then goes to the block behind the building.
If you create an atmosphere where an individual feels as though they will always be detected if they're involved in things that are not what we would consider appropriate, then that is a deterrent. Yes, it is. And that's really what we're trying to do. I mean, as an example, and this is one of the reasons why we're trying to expedite this as quickly as possible, we have a number of events that we'll be doing over the course of the summer that will be bringing in a lot of people, not necessarily folks who are residents of Middletown itself. And so we want to create an atmosphere that is inviting, that encourages potential investors to say, hey, I'd like to take a look at downtown. It seems like this is a good place to take a risk financially in doing certain things. And so this helps us to augment that. We're going to be working hand in hand with the police department. In fact, the chief really was kind of our key person in terms of just listening to his insight, as well as our desire to make sure that this was we take a humane approach to this. So it's not the answer to everything, because this is obviously a much more complicated situation than what we know we face, but it is a way to begin to start a process by which we begin to work through these issues.
So I have a question about the contract. One of the hallmarks of a contractor versus an employee is that a contractor brings their equipment and provides their equipment to the job, and I'm curious why the city is paying for a bicycle for this contract company and the maintenance for it, who will own the bicycle, and the liability associated with that.
Well, first of all, in this particular instance, one of the things that we wanted to have was rather than someone driving around in a car, we felt that either a bicycle or a golf cart, which in fact we cannot do right at this particular time, that a bicycle and that ability to kind of be walking and have one-to-one contact would be much more effective. And so in this instance, the bicycle is what's necessary for our particular effort. Now, if it's the desire, and I actually talked to the contractor, we could actually purchase that bike through the contract, so that from one of our local businesses downtown, so that'd be another way of kind of encouraging investment in our downtown.
It's just my opinion, if a contractor wants a contract that they need to bring the equipment to the job, I don't think the city should be buying a bicycle, but so then it comes the liability if the city buys the bike. I'm, again, going back to a liability issue just because I want to make sure we address these issues,
Yeah,
but who's liable if someone's injured on a bicycle? Who owns the bicycle?
The security company will carry the liability necessary to protect itself, and DMI will be indemnified. That was part of the conversation that we had as we went through the evaluation process and the interview process with the firms that we interviewed.
Susan, did you have a?
I did, thank you, and I don't want to interrupt Mr. Payne, but I also think it's helpful to have the distinction that we are not buying a bike. We are providing a grant to DMI, and certainly in that grant agreement, and I'm assuming then later the agreement that they have with the parties, there's going to be the appropriate indemnification clauses. Right. But we are not purchasing a bike, therefore the associated liabilities. We're providing a grant. So there is a distinction there. I know, I understand where you're getting from, but there is a distinction there.
Yes.
Okay, just poorly written contract that I would have never gone into with someone, but okay. So my other question then is, okay, so the city gives DMI money for this, and then DMI charges the city 5% administrative costs. Can you explain that to me?
Well, we feel that that's a reasonable fee, given that we are taking on the responsibility of having to monitor and pay. I mean, that's when we do fiscal agency agreements, we charge a similar fee for those kinds of services. Again, our revenue stream is very limited. We are approached by a number of nonprofits that do not have the administrative capacity to do certain things, and they request that DMI do these things. And so in that, we want to make sure that we provide for our ability to operate. So we think that that's reasonable.
Because you'll also be responsible for the data and sharing.
Oh, absolutely.
with PD, and you're very thinly staffed, so basically you is
Not
you.
friendly, that's me.
Right, so, I mean, I
Yes.
think there is work that goes along with this, and while
Absolutely.
you're a nonprofit, you can't donate your time
Absolutely.
in the organizations.
You probably have said it much better than I can.
So, I had a question, like, Chief Burke, what was your involvement in this, and how did that come about, or how were you consulted with it?
Like Jim explained, the city manager, he called me up to the office and was asking what our off-duty pay was for officers. I explained our off-duty pay is $50 an hour. And he was asking about security downtown, and I just told him under the current staffing, I just don't have enough officers to do that. I have 68, we're down 4 officers, and I have Major Reeve retiring. I says, we could post off duty, but it would be $50 an hour. And with our staffing levels, I just don't know if we can staff all those times available. That's how this got started. So then he asked if I could, sit on a review panel. So I did, interviews with them. I sat there and just kind of gave my 2 cents on the companies they looked at. And that was my involvement with it.
Okay. Are there other businesses in town that use the off-duty officers?
Yeah, during the holidays, Walmart, Myers, they pay off-duty pay for that. There's local establishments that pay bars in different locations. The 513 pays for off-duty officers 2 officers on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday nights, and then they have another location. They pay a couple nights in the week off-duty officers.
Okay, and does the city subsidize any of that? For that?
I don't believe so. I think that's contracted through the FOP and the police department.
Okay. Does anybody have questions for Chief while he's up here? That's all I had for him.
What would be a full-time, because I've seen and heard people say like, well, why don't we just hire another cop, which obviously we would love to hire another officer, but to hire another full-time officer with benefits, and obviously we want to keep them, not fire them, what does that annual look like?
If we would have full-time officer, the starting pay is around $56,000, but then with benefits, I think we go around $79,000. So that would be the starting pay annually for an officer. The issue we have is we just exhausted our list for hires, so we would have to actually give another list. Everybody's fighting over the same candidates. We have a new candidate in the back that heard his name called today, so he's pretty excited. But our recruiting's outstanding. It's just it's difficult right now to find recruits. But annually, it'd be around $79,000 for an officer.
And Chief, I know the community gets segmented into, quadrants or whatever for patrol. I would assume the UCC would be way too small for a dedicated officer for certain hours.
Well, if our staffing was more, then we could probably work something, but our staffing's so low right now, there's no way. We actually have a downtown beat. And then we're moving Officer Wayne Birch to COP June 1st, and his primary mission is going to be to work with Victoria, some other social groups, really work the downtown area while Officer Howie Owens works on other aspects of the community policing.
Can you talk a little bit to just your general perception of the need for security in our downtown, based on the calls that you get and all the things? I mean, obviously, there is concern with some of the issues downtown. How do you see that concern?
We have some issues downtown with some homeless. I think, certain social services downtown in the area bring a lot of people to that area. I think we're a very service-oriented city, so we bring a lot there. I know I've been having midnight officers go down there around 6 o'clock, day turn officers when they get loose. And then when I come in, before I actually come to the PD, I drive around Central Avenue. I think the numbers are down right now. I don't know why, but I think most of the homeless aren't waking up until a little bit later, maybe because of the weather. But yeah, there's definitely a need. There's a need for more officers, as Jim said. We're understaffed. We need more officers in general. So we have to do something. We can only be stretched so far, and there's definitely a need for downtown. I know Heather, for example, Gibson and the Triple Moon, she has an employee leaving because they're harassing them, asking for money, asking for cigarettes, asking for different things in the morning when she opens up. So there's definitely need, but I don't have statistics for how many calls for service we have actually down there. I didn't have that with me right now.
And do you see similar needs in any other parts of town? Like, you know, are there any other parts of town that you feel like might have a similar need?
There's not probably a concentrated area, but you know, right now the homeless are spread throughout the whole city. We have camps over there off of Commerce, behind the hospital in the wooded area. Off of a Village Drive, we have camps. So it's spread all over, but that concentrated area where all the services are, that's probably the most concentrated area in the city when it comes to those issues.
But working with one city and the idea of the contract with one city was a way to address that throughout the city and
That's-
also provide a little bit of extra focus downtown.
Yes, like Jim said, that's like a pilot program. We're going to try something and see if it works, you know. Being homeless is not a crime in itself, you know, and they're homeless for a reason, so we want to get them the services they need, and that's why we paired up with one city. We use Kathy Becker with Access Counseling a lot too. She's a great resource. So we're trying to get them placed and giving them the right needs. Now, not everybody wants to go to those services. Some people want to stay homeless for whatever reason that may. They enjoy it. They're alcohol dependent or drug dependent. They don't want to go in the Hope House because they won't take them because they want to drink alcohol. But yeah, I mean, we're trying so many different things. So, you know, we're seeing what works, you know. We're throwing a dart at it and seeing what sticks.
And the mayor brought up a good point, I think, about lighting in neighborhoods. Like, you know, if we get downtown and we identify all these spots and, you know, we get downtown feeling really safe, maybe this is a way that we could approach certain neighborhoods and say, all right, residents, what are your blind spots in your house? And can we help you with security and lighting and teaching and educating neighborhoods in the same way that we're doing downtown?
I think that's the master plan. You can talk to Scott a little bit more about that, but I think the master plan is to actually bring more lighting in the streets, downtown, everywhere. The Oakland Park, the new design there was more lighting, more visibility. So I think that's definitely a deterrent for any crime, any problem. So that's definitely part of the master plan.
But this contract isn't providing lighting, right?
I'm just saying.
I'm just clarifying.
No, I'm just saying.
Education.
You mentioned that it's going to push people into neighborhoods. And the idea was we can identify things like lighting and ways that people can improve their properties to make it safer in addition to all of this. That's all I was saying.
Anything else?
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'd like to make a comment. Dennis Vittori. I live in Cloister Cliffs. Chairman of Downtown Middletown, Inc. We own a 40,000 square foot building downtown. We're all in downtown. We have some businesses, restaurant. Part of this committee, we had a meeting with.
I just want to be clear that you're speaking on behalf of DMI right now, right?
That's correct.
Okay. I just want to, just for the record. That's
Correct. I'm sorry. I wanted to let you know who I was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, so we had a meeting here with the chief, 13, 15 businesses all having a concern about downtown. Obviously, they wanted us to be compassionate. They want to make sure that we had de-escalation policy in all this process. Allied is the largest security firm in the world. They have a presence, an office in Cincinnati. I think they have a firm, they have a group by Atrium that they do security for. They also have experience with SIDS all over the country. The bike for $898 is because we requested a bike and we felt that's what we wanted to handle our area, and they concurred. We talked about a golf cart, currently not in the cards for the city. We felt that the car didn't get us enough interaction as opposed to somebody on bike being closer to the city streets. They also have, as part of the contract, this system that tracks everything so that they will be able to give us reports, give the police reports. They're going to interact with the police. They don't have guns. But the thing is that once this process gets started, we're going to maybe see where these problems are, what the times are. We have a feel for these times because that's what the 16 businesses said they needed when we had this meeting. Jeff's reached out to most everybody. So, as you know, cities need their downtowns to be prosperous. We're trying to get people to live downtown. Well, they need to feel safe. My son-in-law's got Indigo Pass. He's got people coming in and out of there. They're getting yelled at, cussed at because they want money, cigarettes, whatever. The same thing happens, I think, all over the city. But, you know, those are my 2 cents worth and the reason we selected Ally.
I would also say the contract's not signed clearly, so Mayor, if you have concerns about the contract, I would say it would be a good time to share them. I think you said you wouldn't sign this contract, so if you have specific concerns, I would maybe say to send them to DMI, as they're still obviously probably negotiating the details. Thank you.
As I said, they are the largest firm in the country, in the world. Thank you. I'm sorry, do you have a question?
No. Okay, are we ready to wrap this up? Okay. I believe we already motioned and seconded, so Ms. Skank, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
No.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Ms. Vittori?
Yes.
Matter number 9 this evening is ordinance number O-2021-47, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a small business grant agreement with Lubrisource Incorporated here for first reading.
Mr. Pelenick.
Madam Mayor, members of City Council, this is our traditional small business grant program. This is not the GET grant, so that's why it's coming here before you. In this particular case, this is a woman-owned business. Angela Morrow has brought her business to Middletown, actually relocated from another community. She is now at 2900 Cincinnati Dayton Road and has relocated 5 full-time employees here and plans to add an additional 4 full-time employees and have an annual payroll up to $585,000 by 2025. Seems to be a really good, growing lubrication-based business. Has chosen to be in Middletown. We'd like to help them to continue to succeed. This $15,000 under the grant would be specifically for signage and for training modules for some of the new employees that they're adding. The contract in this case would have clawbacks, so that if the business were to close or leave in less than 4 years, either all or portions of the money would have to be paid back. But if they stay beyond that, then of course it will be a pure grant. So we would recommend approval. We believe this would be a good grant and very much in keeping with our small business grant and what we're trying to achieve with them. And it is within the budget.
Thank you. Any questions at this time? Okay, Ms. Cohen.
Last matter this evening is ordinance number O-2021-48, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with DBT Transportation Services, LLC, for the purchase and installation of a CL31 centimeter for the automated weather observing system at the airport.
Mr. Pelenick.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of council, like so many things, after they get to a certain age, they do in fact either wear out or fail. So this particular piece of technology that is part of our automated weather observing system at the airport has simply reached the end of its useful life and it is failing. So it's obviously something we have to have out there. It's a critical piece of technology. The cost is $28,150. It exists within our approved 2021 airport budget. So we would ask that you approve the purchase of this particular ceilometer.
Any comments or to new business. Does anyone have any new business to discuss this evening? Okay. With that, we will adjourn until Tuesday, June 1st. Does that sound accurate to everyone? At 5:30 or 17:30 p.m. here in council chambers. Until then, blue skies over Middletown. Thank you.